All right, I will call the Thursday, March 21st, 2024 Plan Commission meeting to order. Mr. Martinez, could you call the roll?
Mayor Nelson is excused. Commissioner Hogan,
Here.
Commissioner Shago is excused. Commissioner Haley,
Here.
City Engineer Morrow,
Here.
Alderwoman Day,
Here.
Commissioner Leon.
Here.
All right, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the agenda tonight, item B, approval of the minutes, approval of the regular meeting of March 7th, 2024.
Move to pass.
I have a first, do I have a second? Second. Any comments?
Yes.
Commissioner Haley?
Thank you. Small typo. It's straight. Section D, Business Matters, Item 1, the second paragraph, says Planning Associate Nick Fuchs presented the site plan amendment application. It goes on, and applicant's materials, it says Marshall's. Should be materials,
Oh, I see. Thank you.
but you got my name right.
All right, any other comments? All right,
Included in the, as amended in the motion.
Yes,
Make a motion.
I'm fine with changing the word to materials. That's clearly the intent.
second. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Moving on to item C, public hearing, business matters. Item 1, update to the Unified Development Ordinance, fee schedule for zoning and land division procedures, UDO section 15-9.0401. Mr. Martinez.
Good evening. Thank you. This is a proposed update to the fee schedule of the Unified Development Ordinance that the Department of City Development used to charge filing fees for the applications that are presented to this Plan Commission and other city boards, and also for zoning permits that goes to staff review. This update was previously presented to the Plan Commission, recommending approval, and then it was presented to the Common Council, and the Common Council table, and requested to compare our fee schedule with other municipalities. So staff went back and kind of looked at 5 different communities and compared the fee schedule and make some changes to the previous proposal. The previous proposal was to adjust for inflation only. From 2004, that was the last update to this fee schedule, to 2023. So the increase was about 60% of the accumulated inflation. And the previous proposal was kind of increasing all type of applications at the same rate, say. So now this proposal is different. So it's not only adjusting for inflation, it's also adding charges for consulting fees or staff time incurred by the city in the review of development applications. There is also a new fee for easements. We currently don't charge a fee for easements. And there is a new fee for floodplain land use permits. In the previous or in the current fee schedule, the fee for land use permit in floodplain is miscellaneous fee. Now we are defining a specific fee for these type of applications. And the adjusting for inflation and adding charges for consulting fees could be combined differently depending of the type of application. So for example, there are some applications that are adjusting for inflation and also adding the charges for consulting fees, like for example, for rezonings. So it's increase and also the additional charges for consulting fees. Other type of application only adjusting for inflation. For example, the zoning compliances. There are like administrative review, doesn't need to go to plan commission. That's why we are only adjusting for inflation. The other situation could be only adding the charges for consulting fees, like for example, for site plans or for special uses. And let me show you why. So this is the table that compared what we currently have, 2004, the proposed changes, and all the 5 communities that staff look at. So, for example, for final plat, basically the Franklin fee is the highest of all these fees. So that's why we are not increasing or adjusting for inflation, but we're recommending to add the consulting fees like other communities do. You can see in the other 3 communities that we observe have these additional charges for consulting fees. And there are other type of application that staff is actually recommending to decrease the fee, like the PDD amendment from $6,000 to now $3,000, but adding for the consulting fees, because depending on the complexity of the project, it may require less hours than other projects. So that varies. And the other possible scenario is on applications that we're recommending to increase the filing fee to a rate even higher than the inflation rate, plus the consulting fees. That's, for example, for a comprehensive master plan amendment. Why? Because here, when compared to other communities, actually Franklin is the lowest for the comprehensive master plan amendment. And that's really important because, I mean, that's the adopted policy for the city. And if it's going to be changed, I mean, that require an extensive review, public hearing before common council, recommendation of plan commission. So that involves a lot of work for a comprehensive master plan amendment. And we're only charging now $125. The process to charge for consulting fees, it's similar to the process that is currently in place with the engineering department. The difference will be that for our planning application, the base filing fee will remain, plus the additional consulting fees for some applications, and also the possibility that the city can charge for staff hours devoted to in-house reviews for applications that we are not using an external consulting firm. So staff is presenting this update to the fee schedule and also recommending approval. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Glenn?
As a department head for another city department, fully supportive. I can tell you that it's somewhat frustrating to be asked to do more with less every year. And the powers that be pat themselves on the back for trying to keep our city tax rates low. And I know that before folks on Facebook jump all over that, I'm not talking about the school taxes that it costs to live in Franklin. I'm talking about the city tax rate is actually one of the lowest around. So, we strive to do that, but yet we're asked to do more and more and more with less and less and less when you consider all the other expenses that come into effect. So I am fully supportive. A question I have for you is the consulting fees. You said like the engineering department. So do you mean normalized rates?
Yes, but that has not been done yet. So if this is approved, then we will follow the process similar to what you do for the
so-
standard rate.
So for everyone else's benefit, when we say charge for stormwater fees or inspection fees, that's the big one. So we have 3 firms that we rotate through to do in-field inspection services for us. But every 2 years, we negotiate rates. So we find out the rates for an inspector from A, B, and C, and we normalize them, average them together. So one firm gets a little higher rate, another firm gets a little lower rate, but they all agree on one rate. That way the developer can't complain that they always get the expensive firm or whatever. So I do support following through on that process. That seems to work out well for us. So when you're consulting fees, I would suggest that you do normalize those rates. So that's my comment.
Anyone else have comments or questions?
I will after public comment.
Okay.
No.
Right. Okay, so this is a public hearing matter. So, Mr. Martinez, if you want to read the public hearing notice?
Notice of public hearing, City of Franklin Plan Commission, meeting at Thursday, March 21st, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the Common Council Chambers at the Franklin City Hall, 9229 West Loomis Road, Franklin, Wisconsin, 53132. The proposal, applicant City of Franklin, Department of City Development. The proposal is an ordinance to amend the Unified Development Ordinance text in section 1590-401, administrative fees, a fee schedule to adjust the application fees and to allow charging for consulting fees or staff time incurred by the city in the process of reviewing applications, plus 5% administrative fee. Do I need to read the whole table? No, okay.
No.
This public hearing is being held pursuant to the requirement of Section 6223(7)(d)(2) of the Wisconsin Statutes and Division 590200 of the City of Franklin Unified Development Ordinance. The application and all supporting materials are available for review and may be obtained from the City Council by the way of request to the Department of City Development at Franklin City Hall during normal business hours. A copy of the proposed Unified Development Ordinance text amendment in draft form is available and open for inspection by the public in the office of the city clerk at Franklin City Hall, 9229 West Loomis Road, Franklin, Wisconsin. The public is invited to attend the public hearing and to provide input. The proposed draft ordinance is subject to revisions following public hearing and the further consideration by the Plan Commission and the City of Franklin Common Council.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will open the public hearing for this item. If there's anybody here wanting to speak to it, come to the podium. Seeing no one, we will then close the public hearing on this matter and turn it back over to the commissioners for questions or comment.
I'll defer to the city attorney because I think he had some comments.
Okay, well, City Attorney?
Couple of questions for the planner. With regard to this process, I heard what the city engineer said. I've never had anything to do with the city engineer, even though I work on engineering items all the time. But if a city attorney office is consulting in some way, shape, or form, I can tell you that whatever, the hour and a half going through in detail the entire Plan Commission agenda, how much time would be spent doing, okay, this was 7 minutes and this was 23 minutes, et cetera, for all 6 items. That's not intended, is it?
No, it's for the staff time of the Department of City Development that actually spent on the review of
Okay,
the
so I'm not
project.
considered consultant. That would be in some, have to do all this time consumption for however many things per forever working on with the planning department.
Yeah, correct. And the process that we normally use to when the planning department use like a external consulting, we charge only for the review of the project. I mean, compliance with the UDO, the staff memo with all the comments, and the staff report. That's what we normally charge, pay for the consulting fees, but we don't charge the applicant. And in the report, there is an example that a project that actually the external consultant billed the city higher than our filing fees. So yeah, it's for Department of City Development time.
Not Office of
Correct.
the City Attorney.
Correct.
Okay, and
Yeah.
the other part was, with regard to the ordinance, nothing that I saw stated that this fee estimate should be upfront deposit, because the thought was, okay, fees aren't done until it gets approved by the council or whatever. Council approves it, but then there's fees that don't get paid. Now you have an application for which the fees have not been paid, but it's approved, et cetera, et cetera. So there should be some process for an upfront deposit be done, and I didn't see anything akin to that in this draft ordinance.
Good idea.
What is my understanding that the process that you have in engineering doesn't have that upfront deposit. It's
So actually, it does actually. And we have a hammer too. So if I may speak, if we don't inspect a project or whatever, we don't accept it. And so they can't turn it over to us at the end. In your situation, they can walk away and there's no hammer to enforce them because they don't even own land or anything like that. So that's a good idea. You should ask for a deposit that you charge against. And if you hit that into that deposit, I would stop your review until they produce another more money to keep going.
City engineer still has the,
I'm done.
I'll defer to Commissioner Haley.
okay, Commissioner Haley?
I was just going to suggest on this issue, when we go to the chart, compare the other communities, Muskego seems to have language that addresses that. Legal, engineering, administrative fees incurred by the city, and it speaks of a developer's deposit, see note above. So that's sort of,
City attorney?
and I was just going to say, on our draft, it says for all consulting fees or staff time incurred. So we may want to somehow clarify that whole legal angle.
okay.
Yep, go ahead.
And one other thought, when I looked through actually this schedule, right in your report, first of all, what goes in the code, I don't know how that 2002 and then proposed 2004 or stayed in there. But obviously, the fee table should just be, these are the fees, not some what it was previously, that, with the word proposed. Because it'll be adopted if it's in there. And just out there in the real world, looking at the ultimate chart, it would be good if you had what the proposed 2024 Franklin fees are and compare those to these other municipalities because they are substantially higher. These other municipalities.
You mean for all type of applications? Because here we have like
When you go through them, yes.
yeah, that information could be added to the report. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that should be done because it's a lot different than this 2004, what they have currently than the Franklin. There's a rezoning on this one.
May I?
No, it's not here. So yeah, this table is only, I select just 4 type of application just to illustrate, but it didn't select all the applications.
Yeah,
Just,
no.
yeah.
I compared what's in the appendix to the Franklin chart out real quick on the run. And Franklin fees are substantially higher than basically all of them.
Correct. Yeah, it varies, but for other type of application, Franklin is the lowest. So it depends. It varies.
Good chart.
Yeah.
I'll still defer.
Okay. Back to Commissioner Haley.
Thank you. Then just to follow up on those comments, on the resolution, the suggestion would be to strike the whole 2004 column and change it to not proposed, but 2024 fees. Right? We don't need to be advertising what the previous rates were, and we don't need to say proposed.
You don't need the date because once it's adopted, it just is there. That's what the fee
There
is.
you go.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. Commissioner Leon.
Thank you, Chair. I don't often disagree with the city engineer, but I am going to tonight. I don't like it, right? I mean, it's user fees effectively, right? And I think it makes it more difficult for smaller entities to cover the fees portion of it. I think the inflation makes sense. I also disagree with the idea of effectively what it sounds like a non-refundable deposit for this type of thing. While I understand the constraints that you're discussing.
It would be refundable.
It would be
So the idea is that they would give, set a number, $10,000. And if they're, at the end of the project, if there's, say, $6,000 into it, and they get their approval or denial, whatever, then they would get the $4,000 refunded to them.
So there's a portion of the deposit that they wouldn't get back because those are the fees associated
Correct.
with it, yeah. And I understand what you're talking about with budget constraints, I really do, but it seems like it's shifting the cost, and it's going to make it more difficult for smaller entities to do that. So I'm generally opposed to the idea of adding consulting fees, and although an imperfect comparison, about a year after I moved to Franklin, there was a shifting of, I can't remember if it was waste removal or recycling, but one of the two was moved off taxes and put onto a fee. And so then it wound up being something that was not included on tax. And I appreciate that's not a very fair comparison, but what I'm getting at, this is going to make it harder for smaller entities to apply for things. What I'm specifically looking at is special use permit and CSMs, right? A lot of these here, the rezoning stuff, it'll be by a larger organization that'll have the means to do that. But for applicants who would come before here, it might get cost prohibitive. So we do strive in Franklin to keep taxes low and fees low. I think it's generally a good thing. But mostly, I would like to see this come up when we have the full plan commission present to make a recommendation. I don't know how urgent this is. I would think it could probably be tabled so that we could have the mayor and Commissioner Shago here. But if I were to vote tonight, I'm probably going to want to call the roll because I would vote against at this point. That's all.
City engineer.
So it is indeed a user fee, and that's why it's good, because it only affects the people that are actually coming before us asking for things. Otherwise, as it is, we're, if you will, doing it as a service, but the entire community of Franklin is paying for it. So whether you as a citizen are in favor or against some other project, you're paying for basically subsidizing someone to go through the process. So when someone is looking to build in Franklin and they've got millions of dollars into a store and so forth, and I think those are the folks that can best afford to do that. I think I've talked to you in the past. So like the little guy who wants to do something small, that's going to be at staff level and at very minimal cost, if you will. I mean, you could have a consultant, but the relative cost of that's still going to be low, but it's still a user fee to the person that's affected, who's wanting to do whatever project.
Correct. Yeah, we are not planning to charge for consulting fees for example, like a zoning compliance permit or a home and occupation permit.
Yeah, I mean, I see that those don't have the consulting fee, but when I look at special use, there are smaller applicants who wouldn't necessarily have the fees. I don't know what the consulting fees would be. I think what you're getting at, the city engineers, those would be relatively low, and I appreciate the logic of what you're saying. I just think it, generally speaking, makes the bar a little harder to clear for applicants who don't have millions of dollars to do things. So again, at this point, I think there's probably still some staff work to be done on it, on some of the subjects that the city attorney and Commissioner Haley brought up. So, I guess I would ask the planning department, is there any issue with tabling this until a later meeting to incorporate that and then hopefully having more of the Plan Commission present.
Yes, I'm fine with tabling the item and also to incorporate all the comments received tonight. And also to your point about the consulting fees. So an example of a previous project, it was a land combination and a minor site plan amendment, and the consulting fees for that was $764.50.
Right, yeah, and I saw that, yeah, I did
Yeah,
see that. So I get it, yeah, I mean, it's not huge, but yeah, if we could table it to, and maybe just review, are there some ways to further minimize consulting fees for applications, in my mind, not being the expert, like CSM and special use permits? Again, I understand what you're saying, it's going to be low, but are there ways to keep it so that the little guy can come and afford the fees and still be able to have the types of applications that they're looking for? But it sounds like you're okay with tabling?
Yeah, for me, that's
I don't know if there are more
perfectly fine.
comments, but otherwise I would.
I just have a few. Do you have anything, City Attorney, to respond to that?
Only don't say table, put over.
Okay.
I just have a couple of questions. Having some experience in setting fees at the municipal level, I appreciate the work that went into the comparables and the charts, and thank you for doing that for us. First question was, is there a particular reason that those communities were chosen? Was it because of similar size, similar types of projects, or what was it about those communities that you chose to do the comparable?
Yeah, similar size to, 4 of them, except for one that is Kiwani.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Okay. And then my next question is, I know that we have, for your staff right now, we do have some consultants that we have paid over or have.
Not at this time,
Okay.
but we used it in the past.
So, and that was money that we added to the budget of the planning department to pay for those consultant services to when we were behind a little bit.
Correct.
So my question is, I know in some municipalities, when fees are assigned to certain services, those fees are also akin to staff salaries, meaning that a staff salary is not 100% on the levy, that parts of their salary are paid for by the fees that we charge. Is that the case here? Do the fees help to pay the salaries of anybody in the planning department?
No, that's not in this proposal.
Okay, so the fees that come in, then where do those go? Like,
there is,
for the
yeah.
additional consulting fees that come in, where would those live after they came in?
I would assume it'd be like things in other departments. So like, if I start charging more fees for something and more fees, say the inspection department, more fees come in, it just all goes to the general fund. However, every year during budget time, we look at what we anticipate for the next year and we kind of reallocate those to our budget accordingly. So I wish we could get direct payment for whatever we do, but generally that goes to the general budget. But then we use that to look at how we fund our department the next year.
Yeah, I mean, my thought process on this would be, is I know that there are some shortages from time to time in planning, and that you do currently have vacant positions in the department, that perhaps this is a way that we could, afford to fill those vacancies, perhaps, or help to fill some of those vacancies. So that's something I want everyone to consider, that, additional fees that come into the general fund can help with some of the staff vacancies that we do have. And there are a few at higher levels that we do need to look at getting filled as soon as possible. So those are my comments. Anyone else have any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion?
I would move that we put over this topic until a later meeting to allow staff to take the input from Plan Commission and incorporate it and come before a plan at a later date to be determined.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
The first and a second, City Attorney.
I understand to be determined, meaning when staff is completed with the preparation, staff will put it on an agenda. So it's basically to be determined by staff.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Okay, can the motion state that?
To be determined by staff.
Second approves.
Okay. All right, so we have a first and a second with that change. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we will hold that over until such time that staff brings it back. Thank you. Next item is C2, amendment to Plan Commission administrative procedures, a proposal to change the meeting frequency to once a month. Mr. Martinez again.
Thank you. This item was presented previously to the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission tabled this item and to have this item as a public hearing item. So the proposal, it's the same that was presented last time. So it's basically to proposal amendment to the administrative rule to change the meeting frequency to once meeting per month instead of the current 2 meetings per month. The purpose is to kind of reduce the staff hours devoted to preparing packets, attending meetings, meeting minutes, etc. For example, half of the meetings last year had 2 or less items. We understand that the cons of this amendment could be for some projects that have like a pretty fast timeline that it will kind of delay some projects. We understand that, so that's why we're presenting this to the Plan Commission for your consideration.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments before we open the public hearing?
I will after public
Okay,
hearing.
all right. Mr. Martinez, if you want to read the public.
Notice of public hearing, City of Franklin Plan Commission, meeting on Thursday, March 21st, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the Common Council Chambers of Franklin City Hall, 9229 West Loomis Road, Franklin, Wisconsin. The applicant is the City of Franklin Department of City Development. The proposal is an amendment to the Plan Commission administrative procedures and regulations, specifically the meeting frequency to once a month instead of twice a month. This public hearing is being held per the direction of the City of Franklin Plan Commission from its regular meeting on February 8, 2024. All supporting materials are available for review and may be obtained from the City Council by way of request to the Department of City Development. The public is invited to attend the public hearing and to provide input. The proposed amendment is subject to revisions following public hearing and the further consideration by the Plan Commission.
Thank you. With that, we will open the public hearing. If there's anyone here that wishes to speak on this item, please come up to the podium. Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing, and then I will open it up to comments and questions from the commission. Yep, Commissioner Leon.
Thank you, Chair. To Planning Department, I thought also we were looking to have the full Plan Commission here as well for this topic when we pushed it. But I'm okay with it because ultimately we're making a recommendation to the council, right? This would be fine. Okay. I do still think that this should have the entire Plan Commission here, but I understand that can be hard to do. A side note, I do think this resolves business item D4 since this was at the direction of the Plan Commission and not required by statute, but I'll leave that for a later discussion.
I caught that when I saw it.
Yeah, so yeah, I do, again, I think that it shows that we can have this type of thing. I do still think it would be appropriate at the discretion of the chair, whether or not it would be a public hearing. But when this came up last, I believe the city engineer proposed leaving it as 2 meetings per month with the discretion of the chair to be able to cancel one of those meetings if there weren't enough agenda items. I do believe that's the way forward, that the chair could effectively say, we have 2 agenda items. We can cancel this one and put them over until the next one. I know that Ms. X had some concerns about that, about what the threshold for that would be. That would be my preference rather than 1 meeting a month. Because just, especially if we do put an agenda item over, that means it's going to be at least another full month, unless we call a special meeting, for that applicant to come before this commission, especially when you get to this time of year, when projects are looking to start in the spring. I think it's better to leave 2 meetings on the calendar with the understanding that the chair can cancel, which candidly is current state. So as it stands now, I don't support this, and that's all I have.
City Engineer?
Looks like Commissioner Leo and I are back on the same page.
All
eh?
right.
So, actually, I wasn't here at the last meeting, but I understand that a statement that I wrote was read.
Yes.
So, yeah, I do think that going to 1 meeting a month is anti-developer message. We don't want to do that. We have occasionally, had, most recently, the Karma property. I mean, they were on such a fast track, and we were calculating, how many days and so forth, and trying to hit all the plan commission meetings and so forth. So what I would propose is that we do something what Common Council does for Committee of the Whole, if you will. The Monday before the first Tuesday of every month is on all of our calendars. So for the alderman, the attorney, the mayor, staff that tends to go to those meetings, it's on our calendar. But most months that doesn't happen because it's not needed. So maybe what we do is we still have the 2 meetings a month that are all on our calendars. And we understand that staff is going to push everyone to go to the first meeting or the second meeting or whatever. But if needed, say the second meeting, you're going to let us know as soon as you can whether there's something on the agenda or not on the agenda, so we can, then we can clear that Thursday night off our schedule. So, because I would imagine if we do have a project where it's very, very important to the entire community. We're all rushing to make sure it gets done and so forth, or I shouldn't say it that way, but we're all rushing to make sure the process happens. We want to make sure that, trying to schedule, 7, 8 different people's calendars for an on-scheduled meeting is, I mean, you see what it's like tonight when this is on our calendar. I think that would be almost impossible to do. So I would like to see us pick a meeting, I don't care the first or second, where you try to push everybody to that meeting. And then the other meeting, you let us know as soon as you can whether it's needed or not. And we will put. And if you got one on there, then you can go ahead and let some other people trickle on to take some load off the other night. But I do think that we need to keep 2 on our schedule just to keep the developer friendly tag if we ever had that. I think that's what we need.
Get that.
Back to Commissioner Leon?
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification, City Engineer. Yeah, it was an email that you sent that was read into the record. Would it make sense then to rename one of those 2? So I put this over again to staff to rename the second one, so it's very clear. Like, it wouldn't be committee of the whole, and I would defer to city attorney.
Overflow meeting.
Yeah, whatever the appropriate title of a secondary meeting, right? The primary meeting, let's just say, would be the first meeting of the month. And then the secondary meeting would be only as needed. But so that way it's still on the calendar. People can still have agenda items, but it's very clear in the announcements which ones. And to keep it straightforward, I would propose the first meeting, State Plan Commission, the second meeting be renamed to whatever's appropriate for that.
My thought is, it could be confusing to some. They'll see, use the word secondary. Oh, secondary, those never happen, probably, so not gonna worry about it. Or somebody needs an application done, et cetera, and it comes in right after the first meeting, and the second meeting, which is the secondary, the application could have been processed, but somebody said, no, we don't need it already. I would somehow just leave it at the call of the chair of their plan commission meetings. Same
Okay.
with just people who have never dealt with Franklin, and they're applying for something here, they'll look in the code or whatever. Oh, secondary meeting, what's that? It'll be more time to get on the phone or email. What does secondary meeting mean? How does that compare? Which one do I have to apply for, et cetera?
I can defer to you, Chair, if you have a comment.
If you were responding to that.
I was,
yeah.
just, somehow, is that worked into committee of the whole that it shows in there, call of the chair? So when it's announced, that way, could do the same thing, call of the chair, just so that people know. I'm just looking for a way, I get what you're saying, it could be confusing, looking for a way to make it very clear that that one is, the second meeting would only be held if it were needed.
So, so my thoughts, and I'm going to be a little bit of the Debbie Downer of the group, and I don't know if part of this is coming off of having a 7.5-hour common council meeting with a 40-item agenda on Tuesday. But my fear is that I rounded up for dramatic purposes. So my fear is that we would, well, not 40 items, but we would have very lengthy agendas here. And this particular commission typically does have a lot of audience members, be it developers, residents, who are here to speak about their project or here for questions about their project, not to mention a lot of public hearings where people will wait to be able to speak their opinion about things. And from a customer service standpoint, I don't know that the best way forward is to have people, developers and residents who want a bigger deck or things of the like, having to wait until 10:30 p.m. on a Thursday night. I understand that last year there were meetings that didn't have many agenda items, and I think, you know, if that is the case and there are things that are not date sensitive that can be moved, I think then, you know, if the mayor and staff feel like those can be pushed 2 weeks and we cancel a meeting because the agenda is not very robust, I would be supportive of that. But I think it makes me nervous to go to just one with the arbitrary, maybe we'll have the second, maybe we won't, because even though, you know that there's a chance the meeting could be called after a few months, when it's not, then you kind of start to schedule things, and all of a sudden having that second meeting becomes difficult. And the other piece is just a timeline piece. So we have, you know, some of these processes, they come before us, then they have to go to council. They come before us, then they have to go to zoning. Then they have to, and if there's only one of these meetings a month, then there's a longer period of time between that and some of the other meetings that they may then have to follow up with, and recognizing that some things are date sensitive for development. So my vote would be to leave it as is, and then just have staff and the chair work together and be more cognizant of those meetings that come up where there are only a few items, and see if they can be moved either forward or backward a bit to accommodate that maybe there are some that we don't have to keep. I'll yield. Commissioner Hogan.
I agree with you, Commissioner Day, on that. I think that we should keep the two meetings, even if there's one item. If that person wants to get that project going and we have to say to him, well, you're going to have to wait longer. You're trying to help the community out, and now we're telling him he's got to wait another month. So I'm in agreement with you totally.
So, yep, city engineer.
So even though we have disagree with this, it sounds like we're all in agreement that we don't like it. So I would make a motion that we deny this change to the meeting schedules.
Question about that motion. If we deny, would planning staff not be able to bring it back with some variation? I think, aren't we a bit more limited if we actually fully deny it? City attorney?
It's denied, it's denied. It can always be brought.
You can, okay, then I would second the motion.
So we have, the city engineer, would you mind restating that just for clarity?
Make the motion that we deny this request to change to make changes to the meeting schedule for the Plan Commission.
Okay, and is that
Second.
your second? Okay. We have a first and a second. Any further comments or questions? Okay.
Just one.
Oh, yep,
So it
Commissioner
means that
Hogan.
we're just going to keep the two meetings just as is now. Okay, thank you.
And if we say aye, we're in favor of denial.
Correct.
Okay.
Voting, a vote in the affirmative is essentially a vote for the status quo.
Okay.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Sure. We can do a roll call on that.
Commissioner Hogan,
Aye.
Commissioner Haley,
Aye.
Commissioner City Engineer Morrow,
Aye.
Alderman Day,
Aye.
Commissioner Leon.
Aye. Chair vote on that
Only
Oh, that's
to
right.
affect the outcome.
results.
Yeah, sorry. Forgot we have 5. All right, moving on then, item C3, Gillies LLC, extension of special use. Request for renewal of special use, resolution number 2023-7959, to allow for a drive-through car wash facility, Gillies Car Wash, upon property located at 5484 West Rawson Avenue, tax key number 741-9002-000. Mr. Martinez.
Thank you. This is a special use for a car wash that was previously approved. So special uses are valid for 1 year, and the applicant is requesting to extend that time because they were not able to start construction due to market conditions. That's the justification in the letter. So there are no changes to the proposal, and staff is recommending approval of the time extension. And in your seat, you have a resolution with technical corrections.
And the correction is the red box at the top for the address.
Correct. Well,
The city attorney?
Basically, the draft in the packet essentially said nothing about the time extension, and it had some whereas one was in front of one that it should have been after, et cetera. Just what was handed out here was, staff redid it.
Kevin didn't catch that?
Staff redid it the way it's always been done for time extensions on special uses.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. All right, anyone comments or questions before we open up the public hearing? Okay, Mr. Martinez, would you read the public hearing, please?
notice of public hearing, City of Franklin Plan Commission, meeting on Thursday, March 21st, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the Common Council Chambers at Franklin City Hall, 9229 West Loomis Road, Franklin, Wisconsin, 53132. The applicants Jonathan Zimmerman, president of Gillies LLC, Debo Properties Rawson LLC, property owner. Subject property located at 5484 West Rawson Avenue, Zone N1 Limited Industrial District, and OL2 General Business District. The proposal is an application for extension of the approval of a special use to allow for the development of a single-story building, housing offices, and a car wash facilities, Gillies Car Wash, with adjacent parking for vacuum stalls as well as general parking with hours of operation Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. and on Sunday from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. This public hearing is being held pursuant to the requirements and standards of Section 15.30701 General Standards for Special Uses, 15-30703 Detailed Standards for Special Uses in Non-Residential Districts, and 15-90103 Applications for a Special Use Permit of the City of Franklin Unified Development Ordinance. A map showing the property affected, full legal description, the application, and all supporting materials are available for review and may be obtained from the City Council by way of request to the Department of City Development at Franklin City Hall. A copy of the proposed special use resolution in draft form is available and open for inspection by the public and the office of the city clerk at Franklin City Hall during normal business hours. The public is invited to attend the public hearing and to provide input. The proposed draft form resolution is subject to revisions following public hearing and the further consideration by the Plan Commission and the City of Franklin Common Council.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will open the public hearing. If anybody is here to speak on this item, please come forward to the podium. And if you just give us your name and address, please.
Sean Kersey, project manager with Bryan Building Corporation, 3885.
Oh, well, yep, 1 second. Get your mic on. Okay, yep, you just have to talk louder or talk closer.
Sean Kersey, project manager with Bryan Building Corporation, 3885 North Brookfield Road, Brookfield. I'm just here to represent our client for Gillies. He's very eager to start his construction this year. Unfortunately, as it was stated, we ran into a couple issues just with the current market pricing, labor increases, which I think everybody has experienced. We were able to work through a lot of challenges with our client, and client has secured the property, owns the property, and we are actually beginning to do a resubmittal on the plans for April 8th, and plan on beginning construction upon approval and then obviously state approval as well.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the
Is
commissioners?
there anyone else?
Or anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, with that, I will close the public hearing. Does anybody wish for the developer to come back up for questions?
I can make a statement to him.
Okay,
Just let you know that the city has made a recent change in our policy for water mains. I understand initially that you decided not to make it a public water main. We are now requiring all this to be water mains public and your services, if you will. And we have a new easement, so I would suggest that you contact our office tomorrow or sometime following, and we'll get that information to you. And so that means you'll have to submit that to the state, WDNR, to make that a public water main.
I appreciate the additional information. Thank you.
and anyone else wishing to speak on this issue? We'll close the public hearing then, but if you want to stay up there for questions. Yeah, Commissioner Hogan?
You already closed.
Okay. Commissioner Hogan?
Is this going to make it harder for you, or is this going to be an initial cost at their expense for them?
It does increase the cost, but we had a long discussion at Common Council that we think in the public interest and at the recommendation of the fire chief too. Yeah, we're going to try to take as many of these as public as possible, but we're also part of shifting the cost to the owner. So if we have to do any repairs and so forth, it will go back to the owner. But for the public's sake, the issue was sometimes the fire department would show up and open a private hydrant and it wasn't operable. And so we feel like the city water utility is pretty good about putting things on schedules and making sure that we know how to fix hydrants and so forth. So many communities around us require them to be public. So we're following suit. We're going to require them to be public and for a public safety issue. And we're, again, so for the issue is it does take a little more expense because you have to submit things to DNR and get it approved as a public water main. And then it takes a little bit more time that way too. So.
Just so you're aware of that.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
City Attorney?
But does it change the actual physical public improvement or improvements that are to be installed?
Yes.
In what way? What was going in and what's changed to that?
So we call them water main services. So I would imagine you probably had a 6-inch or maybe even 8-inch because you use a lot of water going from the public main back to your building. There's probably a smaller service, maybe going to restrooms and so forth. But there's, in case of a fire, there's the fire flow, if you will. And so prior to that, we gave an option to developers to make it public or keep it private. Almost everyone decided to make it public. Occasionally there were some various reasons, maybe they were in a time crunch or something like that, but they decided to keep it private. The policy changes now, we're requiring all those to be dedicated to the public in an easement that you're going to dedicate to us. And again, we'll if something should blow up, we will be responsible for fixing it. But again, we do charge everything back to the owner of the hydrant. So
Are there questions or comments? Do we have a motion, Martinez?
A motion to recommend approval of a resolution to amend resolution number 2023-7959, a resolution imposing conditions and restrictions for the approval of a special use for the development of a single-story building housing offices and a car wash facility, Gillis Car Wash, with adjacent parking for vacuum stalls as well as general parking, 3 separate pay stations, landscaping, and lighting upon property located at 5484 West Rawson Avenue by Jonathan J. Zimmerman, President Gillis LLC, applicant Debo Property Owners, Rawson LLC. Property owners, sorry, to extend the time for commencement of the special use development.
So moved.
Second?
All right, we have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Chair,
Yes.
if I may ask if we can do a business matter out of order so I can leave after B4. That's acceptable to the commission. If not, I'll stay.
I'll second that. Get it out of the way.
Thank you, Mr. City Engineer.
Sure. All
D4.
right, we'll just go.
D4.
D as in David for business matters, which is the potential utilization of a public hearing process when so determined by a decision-making body, when such process is not required by federal or state law or local government ordinance.
He's upset. He wants us out of order because he wants to go to a Bucks game, and that guy heard it, and he's all ticked off, and
Oh,
he left.
I'm okay with doing D1 first.
I'm
We
just
can do
telling
that,
you
yeah.
what
I
happened.
appreciate that, and
And you
thank
said
you.
it when you came in here, and maybe you shouldn't have said it as loud as you did.
But I did, but we can do D, I'm okay with doing D1 now, so we can take care of that. And I didn't realize it was going to disrupt the applicant. I don't want to do that, so. I would ask that we go back to D1 to address that.
It's
Okay,
already in my second.
okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks for coming back.
Okay, business matters, D1, Alice Roller Special Use Amendment, which is a request to allow for parking and drives without curb and gutter, as well as outdoor storage upon property located at 5801 West Franklin Drive, tax key number 931-9001-000. This was, the Plan Commission did hold a public hearing on this matter at our last meeting on March 7th, 2024. Martinez.
Thank you. Yes, this item was presented to the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission table the application due to concerns, specifically fire safety concerns regarding the storage of wood pallets. Now, your seats, you have a letter from Fire Chief, and the Fire Chief is here available for questions.
So whenever the fire department, when we see wood pallets, it gets our attention because if you've ever been to a bonfire, you know that even a small number of them, because of their shape and their surface area, they can create really a big fire problem if they start on fire. And the state fire code is very specific in how they can be stored, which you've got a copy in front of you. So I think it's good that we went back and forth with both the builder, Cooney Architects, the fire department, and I believe we're on the same page now. Our initial concern was just that the fenced-in area that was originally proposed for storage was too close to the building. And Cooney Architects, and I don't know if anyone from the architect is here.
No, he's not here tonight.
They have provided an alternate storage area that is much further away from the building. It can accommodate the code requirements for over 200 pallets if they wish. So from the fire service aspect, we are we are satisfied with their solution. And I think it's probably a testament to the planning process that we were able to hammer this out now, as opposed to when our fire inspector came there for their first inspection, and then all of a sudden, hey, you never told us about this. So I think hopefully we can continue. We've had a good relationship with Alice Roller for many years, done safety programs at their facility, and they've always been good to work with. So I think we have resolution unless they say something differently. So.
All right, thank you, Chief. Appreciate you being here and for the clarification. And then he did, Chief also did submit a letter explaining all of that. So we all have that here to add to our packet as well. The applicants are here. If you both just want to say your name and business address is fine for the record, just so we can have it on record that you were here.
Dave Dahl, 5801. Dave Dahl, 5801 West Franklin Drive. It's Alice Roller. I'm the CEO of the company.
Matthew Unger, 5801 Franklin Drive, Alice Roller, Operations Manager.
Excellent, thank you. Anything you want to add to the chief's presentation?
No, we're just appreciate that he's here. And
Okay.
yeah, I am under a little bit of a time crunch trying to leave town at the airport. So I was
Gotcha.
happy that you decided to stay
Gotcha.
on the agenda. I understand
Absolutely.
how things happen. We agree with everything he said. And I think our proposal has been talked about before. And hopefully tonight we can answer any other questions.
Absolutely, thank you. All right, questions from the commission that have come up since last time? City engineer.
Yes, again, I wasn't here last time, but I do appreciate that the staff recommend denial for the curb and gutter. But having said that, the Economic Development Commission, they are really, if you will, the patrol of the neighborhood. So if they're okay with you being the neighbors that without curb and gutters, I guess I'm okay to approve that also. And Fire Chief, you charge user fees if you make a call out somewhere, right?
For medical service.
Exactly, yeah, all right. So, want to put that in there.
Point taken.
All right, anyone else, comments or questions? Yeah, Mr. Martinez, do we have a motion?
A motion to recommend approval of a resolution to amend resolution number 2003-5502 imposing conditions and restrictions for the approval of a special use for 5801 West Franklin Drive, Alice Roller LLC property owner.
So moved.
Oh,
Second.
Commission. Oh, look at that. First and a second.
Who seconded?
All right, any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thanks
coming in.
coming back. So is there anyone else that I would delay? And that was an understandable reason. I understand why that was frustrating. But yeah, so otherwise I would propose that we go out of order to D4.
I just want to ask, there's
Who's it?
another gentleman in the audience. He's with
Okay.
Okay. All right.
So I will second.
Does he charge a user fee?
So I'll second the motion to go out of order and go D4.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going D4, again, that is the potential utilization of a public hearing process when so determined by a decision-making body, when such process is not required by federal or state law or local government ordinance. So I will turn that one over to the city attorney to start us off.
No, I think it's all stated within the, because of all the legal articles, et cetera, included in my review. Bottom line is, you can do it. My recommendation would be don't do it because it's asking for trouble, First Amendment claims and equal protection and all that stuff. Why did you do it for him? Why won't you do it for me? An applicant might be opposed to a public hearing, but you require one then. And then 2 months later, same type of application, but there's none required. And that applicant wants one, et cetera, could prepare an ordinance. As I said in here, I checked with Municipal Attorneys Institute, and no one responded that there were any other municipal ordinances that did that outside of what's required by state and federal law. But you could do that and set forth parameters for why it would be required, et cetera. So that pretty much sums it up. How many pages? 12? I summed that up in what? 1 minute and 14 seconds or something.
All right, questions or comments? Commissioner Leon?
For the record, I read the city attorney's assessment here, and while I appreciate the concerns that city attorney has about potential objections to public hearing, I think the benefits to the public, and I will use the proposed development at the FPS ECC site as a prime example, that I think that should be noticed, and letters, postcards now going out to neighbors within a certain radius, 500 feet, I think, from the border, so that they know about it, so that when something that is going to significantly change their life, that they're notified and have the opportunity, known opportunity to come in and speak on this item without having to suspend the rules. I drove on Forest Hill earlier this afternoon. I took the path that many of the neighbors who've come to the past two meetings had. And there absolutely is a chance of, disrupting through noise, traffic, and light to their area. I think everybody within 500 feet of that should be notified and then have the opportunity to come in and speak, and have the opportunity for the applicant in this setting, in this room, to do it. Not at the ECC building on the school board and FPS's home turf, or any other applicant for that matter. They come before their city, their plan commission, and can state their concerns and have them properly addressed. So I think the benefits to the community outweigh the risks of potential litigation later. And I'm not a lawyer, but that's why I remain in favor of this. And I think we do have to take action on this, right? And also I think that, and I already brought this up, agenda item C2 is an example that we just did it, right? Because that was not statutorily required, but we asked for it to become a public hearing, and we noticed it as such. So I know there's some differences there, but I think we've shown that we can, and there are some risks, but I think as a city, we're better off for it, for notifying neighbors and in the interest of our residents. So those are my comments.
City Engineer?
So I'm a little confused why we have to act on it. I guess my thought is, as far as public hearings goes, I mean, we had 3 here tonight, 0 public showed up. I would suggest to you that, as a person who has a lot of fan clubs around the city, if there's a controversial subject, word gets around like fire. And I don't think that calling it a public hearing gets any more people out. I think the people that feel passionate about it are going to feel passionate about it and show up regardless if there's a public hearing or not. I would tell you that I had a phone call this week from a resident who was quite rude and nasty about something that he thought required a public hearing. And it's really, I'm sure if we would have held a public hearing, it would have got 0 response. I mean, I don't see the need for that. So I guess we're back on the adversaries? No, I hope not. But,
Yeah, we're back on opposite
but
sides.
but back to my first comment, we have to act on tonight. If we're not changing the policy, we don't, I mean, is there, I guess I would question what would the motion be? Are we being asked to do a public hearing for everything? Or are we asked to do a public hearing for whenever we feel like it?
So I made the motion at the last meeting, and the motion was at the Plan Commission can vote to recommend a public hearing, and then the decision would reside with the chair, with the mayor, effectively, whether or not it would be a public hearing. That was the motion I made. And that's what we're discussing tonight. I appreciate all your comments. I get that most times there probably won't be any more from the public, but I do think it's important to very transparently notify the public on something.
And with the exception of just a site plan, it only comes to plan commission. If any sort of zoning or anything like that, that always goes to common council. So
It
that-
does, and the proposal that we were just talking about for FPS is a prime example of that. It is a site plan, right? It does impact the neighbors around. It's not going before council. And I think that's the one that I think should be publicly noticed. There are examples in the past, I don't recall them right now, where I have asked for a public hearing and we still had a business meeting, so.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to do the back and forth, but I guess my question is, so in that example of the school, I wasn't here at the meeting, but it sounds like you had the whole residence here anyway, no?
I think there were only two neighbors. There's two neighbors. So how many of the other neighbors who could be potentially impacted by this didn't know about it because they're not on social media, or they didn't think that they could speak because it wasn't a public hearing item. So they just said, well, the city's going to do what the city wants to do. So that's why I think it should be, in that example, a public hearing. So that's where I stand. I don't know that we need to take action. I think that we do, but I guess I defer to the city attorney on whether or not we need to take action on this.
It's a decision of the commission on whether or not to start this process.
That's my sentiment.
And the flip side, or alternate, would be, well, we're not going to start a process. We're just going to go ahead and do a plan commission akin to, I don't remember noticing that item that ended up as a public hearing on the, let's change the code stuff, or not the code,
The administrative procedures. Yeah.
administrative rules. Or you could just go ahead and say, yes, let's have a public hearing with regard to the Franklin Public School site plan, or just do nothing. Or you could say, we'll just put on the agenda that there will be citizen comment with regard to the Franklin Public School and don't send notices out. That was one of the examples presented by other municipal attorneys when I brought the subject up. So those are alternates.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in quick because that was going to be my comment. That my thought was maybe the easiest solution might be to, if we wanted to go down this route, might be to add public comment to the agenda and have it be, pursuant to the items that are on the agenda. Ergo, school plan is here. It doesn't have a public hearing attached to it, but it's on the agenda. If people wanted to show up and speak during that public comment timeframe on that item, they could do so. And then it would be on the agenda that they would see that there's a public comment period, which might then be enough for people to see it and then want to come and speak, without having to arbitrarily decide who, when, where, and why a particular item would get a public hearing.
Well, just along my original thought on this, when you have a plan commission meeting and you have the number of items, and my thought would be that you put, okay, public or citizen comment with that item versus just on top. If you just put it with that item, the other people involved with the other applications will say, how come not us? But if you put it on the top, then it's everybody. Then if it's not on the next agenda, you'll hear, well, how come we don't have citizen comments? So just
Permanent, but yes.
Jeez,
Oh, you
Riggs.
can go.
Okay. So love the idea of citizens comment, of whether it's on the beginning or before each item. But I know that Common Council does this a lot, and I could imagine that we could do this more. Where an example, the school, you might have said, we're going to table your decision, and before the next meeting, we want you to have a neighborhood meeting or something like that with your aldermen or, something along those lines, meet with the residents, invite all the residents to come and talk about your issue, because that has been done before. That without, and the reason why I'm kind of sticking my feet in against the whole public hearing, I know that takes a lot more burden on staff to make that happen. Whereas if you table it and tell them that I want you to do, a neighborhood meeting, that helps. So, but also when staff sits down and talks about these projects with folks, we could say, you know what, this is one of those, could be a controversial. We suggest you have a neighborhood meeting before you even go to plan commission. We can start doing that. And I think that would satisfy I think the desire that you're wanting to have is make sure everybody knows about it, gives them an opportunity to at least give their 2 cents. But again, unless you're absolutely required to have a public hearing, I would probably prefer not to.
Commissioner Hogan?
And my comment is, I was an alderman, and it was my job when a project came in to look at it, go to the residents and speak with them. If they've had controversy or they're upset with it or whatever, I felt that it was my job to go back to the departments and say, hey, can we have some type of I'll have a meeting, you guys come and whatever. That I felt was my elected duty as an alderman to do that. As I recall, the last meeting, you asked for suspension of the rules to have the public hearing be brought in. Can that be something that we could do if need be? Because I think there was more than 2 people here for that item last time. Am I wrong on that? I thought there was a lot of people that, like, there was 3 or 4 that talked about it. And I don't know to my knowledge, they had a meeting and discussed it. Wasn't Alderman Hofer there? They said they had a meeting. Were they not just happy with what happened at their own meeting and came because it was on the agenda, it was under the business, but not the public hearing? Is that what your take was from it? And that's why you were asking for suspension of the rules, that they could come up and give their comments?
Commissioner Leon?
So a couple of things to address there, not just in Commissioner Hogan's comments, but point taken about all the alternate proposals. Current state is that we can suspend the rules, and I will always do that if there's somebody in the audience wishing to speak on a business matter, right? So no change is required for that. But what I'm getting at is to notice this, right? To have it noticed as a public hearing. That I don't believe citizen comment covers that. I also believe that, again, if it's going to affect where you live, it's going to affect your house, you should get a letter if you're within 500 feet, which I believe is the standard. And while there are other opportunities, here's where I want to go. We've had directed to have the applicant have neighborhood meetings, but in my experience, those were always on public hearing items anyway. They weren't for business matters. There might be an exception to that, but usually there would then also be a public hearing so that on a plan commission night, they have the opportunity, they are notified and they know on the agenda, they can come up to that microphone and talk to this body who, in the case of a site plan, has the final decisional authority, get their impact directly from those neighbors. That's what I'm after here. Now, it can fail, I can make the motion and it can fail, we can have no changes, but I think it should be clear that's what I'm after. And while there were more residents here, I think it was only 2 households, it might have been 3. There were some couples who came and spoke on it, but I think it was only 2 neighboring properties to the proposed area, and I want them to have the opportunity to come to it. And it's not just for this particular application, there have been examples in the past. I yield.
City Engineer?
So I've got another question. So I'm going to ask Mr. Martinez or the city attorney to answer this. So if we were to have an issue tonight that we decided that we wanted, said, no, I think this deserves a public hearing, is there enough time within 2 weeks for someone to tomorrow make up the letter, send them out, go through the statutory time where they could get on the next plan commission in 2 weeks? And I think that's another concern, is the fact, whether it's a school or a developer, it's going to extend it. And many of these projects are, we typically sit down in the beginning and start laying out a calendar, what we have to hit when to if they want to make their project happen, assuming they don't get a denial somewhere along the way. But if you start throwing in, well, maybe not, you might have a surprise requirement for a public hearing that can really mess up a lot of projects.
Yeah, so it will not be for the next meeting. So have to be potentially for the April 18th.
Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I mean, we did address this in, I think, the past 2 meetings on this topic, and it wouldn't automatically be the next meeting. It would allow for that public notice requirement. So it might be 2 meetings later, or maybe there would have to be a special meeting scheduled depending on some of the requirements to do with working with developers and everything. I appreciate that there are challenges to this. I'm making the case for this based on the interest of those neighbors so that they are notified via a postcard. It's on the agenda as a public hearing, so they know they have the opportunity. And if the same 2 or 3 households come, which is probably likely in this example, then we have done this as transparently as possible and given them every opportunity to do so. And I know I've suspended the rules twice on this, and I would again if this fails. But that's the case that I'm making, that this should be very out front, come and speak at the Plan Commission to have your say in front of this board. Those are my comments.
I'll weigh in again. I think where I'm getting stuck is kind of, I think if this were to move forward, there needs to be some sort of delineation about when this would be applicable. Right now, I think it's too broad, and I'm not sure who decides when something it rises to the level of impacting the neighbor for whatever reason. Are you, Commissioner Leon, are you speaking only to site plans, because this is kind of where the buck stops on that?
Yeah, I would be
Or
amenable to
are you
that.
looking for, kind of any type of business matter?
No, I would limit it to site plan. I think that's it, that we have the final say on, right? I can't think of any other examples.
And then would you want it to be done prior to the agenda coming out so that it is already noticed as a public hearing? Or would you want things to continue as they are on the agenda, and then once they're here, we make that motion? Because my fear is with the scenario of, in a scenario similar to the school district, not to pick on the school district, but in that scenario, they were here, and then the decision was hold over for this discussion. And then if we want to move forward with the public hearing, then it's, however many days, for that to be noticed and whatnot. So we're really pushing it out. I think if it's something that we want to entertain and move forward, it needs to be something that is done up front, so there's as little lag time as possible, because with developers' timelines and whatnot, and the dates of how some of our meetings fall, you're really kind of pushing. And then with the time that needs to be done for the public hearing notice, we're really pushing things out. So I think for me to be supportive, I think we just really need to narrow the scope of what we're talking about here. It's too broad right now. City engineer.
Can we come up with another term instead of calling it public notice where that has legal connotations? Can we just say notification of neighbors? So if school district or whoever comes up with a site plan and we decide that, you know what, this probably would have an impact on neighbors, can we just say, we're going to table this, request you notify the neighbors up to 500 feet or whatever and let them know that we're tabling this to the next meeting, and they're welcome to show up the next meeting for the comment. So that way, it's not a public notice per se. It doesn't delay them undue necessarily because of all the statutes related to quote unquote a public notice. But we've done this before where we say we want you to notify your neighbors or talk to your neighbors or whatever, and we can still have that at our option. We just need to remember that if we should see a site plan or any other business item where it appears that it could be an issue, we can decide, we can make a vote to table it, and we'll give the direction to notify your neighbors and tell them that we're going to be here at this next meeting.
I would be okay with that as long as it met that standard. I think 500 feet is the standard, right, from the property line?
Well, that's the typical standard, like, for example, for a variance. But there's no standard for site plans because it's not required.
Right.
So, yeah.
So,
And I would say when we make the motion, we could specify, maybe it's not just 500 feet, maybe we want to say everybody in that neighborhood, or we want to say, make sure you notify this club or something. I mean, every situation might be unique. Or maybe it's, within 500 feet, we know that those people really aren't going to be affected, but, within 200 feet might be affected, or something like that. We can make that judgment call when we table it, like we can now, and we can tell them that if you haven't talked to them or had this meeting by the next, we're probably going to deny or something like that. I mean, we don't have to say that up front, but that would be the implication that we would deny it if they don't notify as we requested.
City Attorney?
So you're going to add time for work, effort, and costs to notify however many neighbors, which is not required anywhere in any of code for any application, etc. I don't think that works.
Commissioner Hogan?
Also, when you're saying when you're saying when we get it here for the site plan and we say we're going to table it, is the person that is putting in with it for this project, are they going to be told that this is going to happen? That it's going to come here, we're going to have to say we're going to table this and put it back. Is that what you were saying?
I guess, if I may, I guess what I'm saying is that I would prefer that over to do a public notice. We say, we think that your project has some concerns. We'd like to hear more from the neighbors. We were asking before the next meeting, you meet with your neighbors or send them a postcard or something. Let them know that we're going to be discussing that again at this meeting.
I thought people that came in with projects did that.
Not everyone.
Back in my day, they went and talked with the neighbors and before they even went in for this. I mean, I am totally against this. I'm sorry, Commissioner. I just think I have not seen, since I've been on the Planning Commission, this was the first time that somebody said, or you came out and said, I believe that these people should have this right to talk. It's the first time I've ever heard that here in this chamber since I'm on the Planning Commission. I've always thought that our public hearings were notified right, and there are going to be the NIMBYs out there, and you know that, not in my backyard, and they're going to go to the council and complain about that. They're not going to come here and complain about that. So I will vote against having this change, so. I just think that we are doing a great job with these public hearings. And I think it's just going to be a total, I don't know the word that I want to use. I mean, I probably can't say it, but it's just going to be a big
Can.
cluster, you know, it just is. It's going to screw up the whole thing. I don't know what your agenda is here for anything, but I just am against it.
Chair.
Emilio?
Appreciate the comments, Commissioner Hogan. My agenda is for the residents and the neighbors nearby, in this case, the Forest Hill neighbors. I have proposed a public hearing on other agenda items, and we'd have to go back through the records to see when that was. And it's never materialized. It always, if we tabled the item, it came back as a business matter later, and if needed, we suspended the rules. So I brought this
Maybe
up
I was
again.
gone at those
Yeah,
meetings.
you
I don't
might
recall
have,
that ever
but
happening.
my agenda
Mm-hmm.
is absolutely transparency and making sure that residents, neighbors of projects have the opportunity to be heard.
And I think this is what the city of Franklin is doing also with their agendas.
Okay, so that is my agenda, to
And that's what
broaden
I,
that.
and I'm
So,
coming back with what I'm feeling
yeah.
is, so.
So, and, you know,
And we
and
give the
ultimately,
opportunity, I mean, I don't want to be getting into a battle discussion here, but I'm just saying, we're all here for the people of Franklin, not just you, we're all here for it, and we all vote together, and we all have our opinions. So that's what I feel. Thank you.
Chair. And again, I appreciate those comments.
And I appreciate yours too.
And at no point have I impugned anyone else's purpose for being up here. So I would like to make a motion on this. I have a sense it's probably going to fail, and that's fine. But if there are other comments, I'll hold off. But I've never held elective office. I have no desire to hold elective office. So my only agenda here is to support the residents of this community and neighbors who could be impacted by that, to expand upon the current process, to make sure that the public has the opportunity to comment on it, to make it more open.
Commissioner Haley?
Just some comments and thoughts that I'm having here. Many times we have done where the alder person goes and pulls that together. I think that that's a great idea. It's something that I would think that the developers would be advocating. The problem we've got here, I think it's part of Commissioner Leone's concerns, is I heard people come here and say, we had some meetings with the developer, the school district, but that's not what they came back with. That there, apparently at these meetings, there was no consensus, or people left feeling that they heard something different, that they were going to be accommodated. And in this case, that's what I heard. The concern that I also have about doing that, and in many cases, in my history, we have done that. We've sent them, hook up with your alder person and go and have that meeting. The problem therein lies in that we can't really attend it, sort of doing bad key notices. So we're trying to educate ourselves. So I want to hear people talk. I want to hear the developer talk. The question is, how can we get that without entering into a pit of quicksand here? And I don't know what the answer is. There was the discussion about using, citizen comment versus public hearing. Maybe that works. Somehow we let people know, and I'm not sure on the mechanism of how we do it. I would think, and I've done a lot of work with developers over the years, it's in their best interest to do this public outreach and have community buy-in.
Right.
I get the distinct impression in this case that just didn't happen, or it was disregarded, but, that's what it is. So I don't know what the answer is, but there should be a way that we can get people in here to share their concerns with us. Problem is, people don't know what the plans are. They're just hearing about things. They're showing up. So the opportunity to come in and hear the developer give their pitch, some back and forth, some questions is what we need. I just don't know how we can do that. I think the city attorney has pointed out the pitfalls. How do we do it? How do we find out what the developers are doing, what the people really think? I mean, I definitely sensed people that felt they had been betrayed, that things were said somewhere along the line. We don't know, we weren't at those meetings, but there should be buy-in. And I don't know if it's something we can strongly encourage alders to do, have the meeting and then come back and tell plan commission or whatever, what you thought you heard and what the consensus was coming out of the meeting. Just requiring people to meet doesn't get anything accomplished. And when they come in and can't speak to us, then we're at a disadvantage. So I don't know what the answer is, but what we're trying to do is find out the public's concerns. We can look at the plans. We've got the whole packet to decide for ourselves, oh, this is good, this is bad, or what about this, which is exactly what happened. We picked up, we asked questions about it. I'm not sure how we resolve this. There needs to be a way. So I'm open to any suggestions.
Commissioner Hogan?
Well, I go back to, is there a way that we, when a developer comes and they want to propose something, like the city engineer stated, we know this is going to be a controversy, and let the people around there know. Do they tell them like what the whole project's going to be or what the impact might be or whatever? Are they afraid maybe to give that information out? When they come here with a project, is the whole thing like ready to go? Do they know everything, what they want to do with the site plan and the whole bit? I mean, and like Commissioner Haley said, at this last meeting, the gentleman from the school, the one neighbor was so angry because, and just hashed out how terrible the guy was from the school. I didn't want to hear any of that. Like Commissioner Haley says, we're not there. We don't know what happened. And to me, he was sounding that he addressed all their concerns. I don't know if you got that impression, but I did. I got the impression that they talked to him after what had happened, and the school felt that they were okay with what these people were complaining about and kind of got their stuff together. Again, I don't know what we can do to make it be something. I don't know. I have no idea. But I just don't believe that we should have to change what we have right now. I just think we're opening up a can of worms if we do that.
Mr. Martinez?
Okay. Just one suggestion from the Plan Commission Administrative Procedures and Regulations, Article 7, it's titled Public Meetings, Special Meetings, Workshops. It states that the Plan Commission may, from time to time, hold public hearings, workshops, and policy sessions which are required pursuant to a state and local law, or which the Commission deems to be in the public interest.
In the administrative rules?
Article 7.
City engineer?
So since I think everyone has had an opportunity to opine at least once or twice, and I don't want to vote no against your proposal because I don't want to make it seem like I want to close off and not allow public participation, but I will make a motion that we add citizens' comment period or periods to future agendas. I think that would be an appropriate way to add the citizens' comment. And I, in line with what Commissioner Hogan said, you know, it's really up to the aldermen, and we can, staff, we can encourage people to attend, and aldermen, I know that they are notified of all the projects coming up, and they should be able to see it, and they can say, you know, an example, the school, they could go door to door or send a letter or something. We would help them send a letter. But I just feel like the other thing that has the legal aspect to it that, you know, the statutory time and so forth, I think is unnecessary. So I'd like to make the motion that, I got windy. I'd like to make the motion that we have citizens comment periods for future agendas.
So
I would-
I'm probably going to second it, but I do want to get a clarification if I do make the second. So would it still allow, I believe what you proposed earlier, Mr. City Engineer, that if a business matter came up and we were going to hold over that matter until the following meeting, that we could still require that the applicant go out and notify the neighbors within some appropriate distance from there?
I think what I understood from the city attorney, that's probably not a good idea, but we can suggest it, that we would be interested in hearing at the next meeting what other residents may have. So, and again, as Mr. Regulo Martinez pointed out, you know, we can hold those kinds of meetings. We have those at our discretion now, but I think citizens' comment would go a long way to allowing people to speak without us having to go what seems like unusual, suspend the rules and allow someone to speak. So you at least allow everyone to speak. The 3-minute timeline would be appreciated because I can tell you that there are some projects that some residents will never like no matter what, and they will stand up there and preach at you for a full hour if you give them that opportunity. So I do like citizens' comment rules and regulations. You allowed up to 3 minutes to speak. You know, let us know what your questions are. You know, if you want to suspend the rules, allow them to speak longer, that would be one thing. But again, I don't want to give someone an open mic to preach to us for an hour.
So while it doesn't get at everything I'd like to, I find middle ground, I think, is a good thing. So I would second that motion.
One question. Does this motion need an amendment to the administrative rules? Because the order of business, it's defined in the administrative rules. I mean, roll call, approval of minutes, hearings, business, and adjournment.
I'll let the city attorney answer that, and then I'll go to Commissioner Hogan.
Yes, on the question, and I did check the section 7. I thought you used the words public hearing. It doesn't include public hearing.
I said public meetings.
Right.
Yeah.
Commissioner Hogan.
So with the engineer, city engineer saying that we'll have the call to order, the approval minutes, public hearing, citizen comment, and then business matters. And then at the citizen comment period, people could speak on the business matter stuff if they'd like.
I guess let me suggest that it might make more sense to the public if you approval of the minutes, public hearing matters, because that does have opportunity for people to speak. And the business matters, so like tonight would have been for Alice Roller's special use amendment. Is there any citizens' comment on this matter? You give them up to 3 minutes to speak. They're done. Then we can have a discussion.
So it would go under the business matters because anything
because of-
else would go under the public hearing.
Because a public hearing, they have the opportunity to stand up and speak. So that would be, I would think as a public, that would be confusing. Citizens' comment that you're talking about D4, and then you get up and have a C1. Because people, if they're here for a public hearing business matter, they won't know when to stand up.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So is that, does that have to be added into it?
The business, is it?
No, can we do that with the law?
Administrative.
The administrative rules, can you add that to the agenda for that?
That was my motion.
City attorney.
I think you amend the administrative rules to put that in. And with regard to where it appears on an agenda and when it occurs, the obvious initial thought I had was, okay, the chair will have to say during citizen comment, please do not comment on any items that are scheduled for a public hearing this evening or on some forthcoming agenda or whatever, and leave it at that. And if you just put it alternately, put it in the business area only, and citizen comment is open for any subject matter the citizen wishes to bring.
So it would
Normally,
be.
so
it-
you would have to
after-
somehow limit it to any items on here,
That's
which
a good
then
point.
again, you're kind of turning
So-
non-public hearing items into kind of public hearing.
Okay,
items.
I'd like to amend my motion. I just had this vision of someone standing up and talking about The Rock or something when it's not on the agenda. So, you know, I'd like to amend the administrative hearing, administrative rules, procedures to allow for a public comment period under business matters related to business matters only.
On the
On the
agenda.
agenda.
On the agenda.
agenda.
On the agenda.
So I'm amenable to that more than likely.
Okay.
But a question is it one comment period for all business matters, or is it a comment period for each business matter? That way it limits it to the topic.
Well, whatever they come to talk, whatever they have a comment on.
I
would
was,
think.
I was envisioning one citizens comment period for just the,
Items
for
on-
everything at once.
For all the business matters.
for all
The
the
public
business
hearing's already been taken. So basically, D1 would be citizen comment for anything
On the business
on the
matters.
business
On the
matters. It
business
wouldn't be
matter.
for each one. Okay, then yes, I'm amenable to that.
So that is your
amendment.
first, that is your second.
Correct.
Further discussion, Commissioner Haley.
Only that we specifically state that it's limited to items on this agenda only. Or we will end up with 5-hour meetings.
Yeah.
Yes.
And maybe from a practical standpoint, staff can help us out on this. When a project comes in and, you know, they get that first meeting, that first review and flush at it, it could easily be said, you know, this is one that might get controversial. I would strongly recommend, here is the alderperson for this district. You might want to go ahead and schedule that meeting. And that just helps us step around that, and we're one step further. And it's a couple sentences that they need to say.
And I would suggest that we do that currently when people come to us with something that's odd or we know it's going to be controversial. We recommend that they come to the Common Council to do a concept review or something like that, or you do contact your alderman. So,
I mean, that's why we're elected. The aldermen are elected to do that. And that, I was strong on doing that when I was an alderman. I reached out, I said, this is coming in, I had my meetings. So, and I had a lot of controversy when I was in office back in the day. So, I mean, Jesse's one to witness, so was Mr. Haley, so, yeah.
Commissioner Haley, you still have the floor.
Concept reviews. We stepped on it there. I believe that the procedural rules say that Plan Commission does concept reviews. That's the way it always was. At one point in my past, the council decided that they didn't like the fact that they didn't have the final say on everything, and basically extracted that and started doing concept reviews at the council level. I had spoken when we were working on updating the UDO that it rightly belongs here, but could certainly be done at both. So Plan Commission gets it, the same presentation can be made to the council.
No, just one clarification from city attorney, because some amendments to the administrative procedures requires approval by the Common Council.
That
So-
was, I was waiting.
Oh, okay.
That's why I left this on. Because I looked back just now, am I okay to
Yeah, sorry, City Attorney, yes.
because I noticed in that other item, well, with regard to the meeting times, the plan commission can, it's in the administrative rules, but they can change them all and cite
amend it again.
a statute in that regard.
Oh, it's on. It's on. Your microphone is on. Yeah, sorry.
It's on?
Yes.
I know that,
Yeah, sorry.
speaking. But my thought was the Plan Commission administrative rules had been approved by the council back when, as part of all of them, and that was the process.
Right.
So this would have to go back to the council.
Yeah. I assumed that.
Okay, good, because
So
if that wasn't the assumption, I was going to say, well, just to be sure, because I was going to ask staff, is that the same where it can just be approved by the Plan Commission? I'd prefer to do a double check.
That's in Article 10. Well, it's my understanding, because this is Article 6 that is going to be amended. It's my understanding that it doesn't need the approval of the Common Council. That's why I need your
not?
kind of confirmation. Yeah, it doesn't need the approval of the Common Council for this
it does.
specific article. No, it does not. Yeah.
So did I hear it does, or did I hear does not?
It does not.
Does not.
That's my reading from Article 10. Just want your confirmation on that.
Mr. Martinez believes it does not need to go to council. Looking for,
Okay, and that's
City attorney.
because the articles accepted therein are not involved here? That
Correct.
Have to go to the council? No, it's not in the last sentence.
The aforementioned articles can only be amended through revision of the city code by the mayor and common council.
I know, but it's with regard to what articles?
Correct. Yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, and and the article in question is Article 6.
Okay, well.
if it does require, I'll amend my motion to make a recommendation to Common Council, but I guess we're waiting to hear.
This reads unusual.
If it does require, I would be amenable to that amendment. I was going to say earlier, it's not often that Commissioner Haley and I agree. I don't always agree, but I agreed with almost everything, Commissioner Haley. I've been on a few different interesting sides tonight.
Is this going to
How
take a
about the
while?
motion with the alternative in there, because I'm reading Articles 1, 2, 3, and then it says Section 1, 2, 3, 4, comma. What's the Section 1, 2, 3, 4 of Article 3?
No, there's 6 on there.
And then it says, and Article 5, Section 2, which is the quorum. Maybe, are those all in the exception? And there should be a comma after Section 2, maybe amended by majority vote of the entire membership of the commission. Then the aforementioned articles, assuming those are 1, 2, 3, and 5, can only be amended by amending the city code. Like this one.
I didn't either.
So,
But we
how
can
about
fix it, right?
another thing on the list? Well, I'll work with staff and we'll come up with what is the most appropriate, board's correct answer on that. So the motion is to
Table.
redo the agenda in that fashion. And upon staff review, if it's determined that council approval is necessary, it's a recommendation to the common council to allow for that.
I'll redact my motion and make that my motion.
Second.
All right, so the new motion on the floor. Further comments and questions, Commissioner Haley?
Just in reviewing this as we're talking here, Article 9, Section 1, Item G states, Plan Commission does concept reviews to discuss an item on a preliminary level workshop or policy session.
In there, huh?
It's here. I'm a firm believer that that would save a lot of discussion that we end up having. Last thing an applicant wants to do is have me open up on them for all the things I found wrong with their plans. Just get a first whack at it.
I like hearing that.
City engineer?
So, I hate to be the bummer here, but so when someone goes to common council with a concept review, we have a certain fee for that. Does that mean we'd have to set up a fee for concept review for Plan Commission?
No, it will be the one fee for,
Okay.
yeah.
But the concept review process is not the motion.
Correct,
No,
correct.
I was pointing out that it's there and
Potential.
it's a policy that we're not following.
Yeah.
So the council should probably revisit that.
Oh, boy.
Real can of worms here.
Yes.
I
Well, we have a
remember
motion and a
Council
second.
meeting the other night, well into the meeting, the clock on the back wall started spinning slowly, which was very interesting.
All right, so we have a first and a second on item D4. Any further comments or questions on that item? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
I
Opposed? Motion passes.
Just for the record, motion by City Engineer Morrow, seconded by Commissioner Leon, correct?
Correct. For the record, Commissioner Leon is vacating the meeting at 7:57. Moving back to the regular order, we are going back to item D2. Although I'm uncertain, are we still doing D2, Mr. Martinez? I had heard that we might be holding this
Yes,
over.
So assuming you're going to make, I saw the email.
Correct, yeah. For D2, the applicant requested to table to the April 4th meeting.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this item to April 4th.
All right, a motion
Second.
to table, the second by Commissioner Hogan. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And the chair will be voting now. I voted aye on that for quorum. All right, so that was held over. Item D3, Dorner Inc. temporary use, request to allow for the storage of construction materials and equipment for City of Franklin water transmission main project until May 31st, 2024, upon property located at 9954 West St. Martin's Road, tax key 840-9984-000. Mr. Martinez.
Thank you. The applicant, Dorner Inc., is a contractor for the City of Franklin water transmission main project and is requesting to kind of have temporary storage of construction materials and equipment at this property. And you can see the location of the proposed temporary storage. This has been approved by staff while waiting for the Plan Commission meeting. So you can see the previous approvals in the staff report. And the proposed time is from February 19 until May 31st this year. And the applicant will be using the existing driveway and is not proposing any excavation work on site. And staff is recommending approval of this request.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the commission? City engineer.
Full disclosure, this is a city project, one of my projects, and it's already in existence and the project's almost done. When they talked about a storage site, I says, hey, you need a special use permit, go talk to planning department, but it happened.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Okay, Ms. Martinez, we have a motion?
A motion to recommend approval of a resolution imposing conditions and restrictions for the approval of a temporary use for the storage of construction materials and equipment located at 9954 West St. Martin's Road. Dorner, Inc. applicant.
So moved.
Second? We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Just for the record, who seconded?
The chair, second.
Okay.
And the chair is voting.
Okay.
Then moving on to business matters D5, Department of City Development Annual Report for 2023. Martinez again.
Thank you. This annual report is kind of a summary of the department activities last year, and also to set the goals of the department for this year. This was presented to the Common Council, the last meeting this week. And I will focus on the parts of the report that are relevant to the Plan Commission. So this is a summary table of all the applications that the department processed last year. Most of these applications comes before the Plan Commission, such as site plans, plat reviews, certified survey maps, special uses, rezonings, UDO amendments, except for zoning permits, sign permits, and variances and zoning complaints. So just to let the commission know that most of these applications received last year has been completed as of today, specifically 91%, and is the goal for the department to complete the pending application for this year. And this was prepared like about a month ago, so actually the number of pending applications will be now lower. I will not stop here too much on zoning complaints because these complaints don't go before the Plan Commission. This is just a summary, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. And this just provide the quantity of meetings that the department staff attend, being the Plan Commission one of the most important commissions that the department staff, and you can see all the other boards and commissions. The report has also specific information about other boards like Quarry, Monitoring Parks Commission, and Environmental, but I won't stop on that. Just some long-range planning activities. Last year, the UDO rewrite that was presented to the Plan Commission. So all the subdivision standards, the administrative procedures, PDD, nonconformities, and natural resource protection that was all drafted last year. Also, the staff prepared a specific application for floodplain land use permit, the design of the water tower park that planning staff coordinated with the Parks Commission. Also, all the rezoning from the last decade was compiled to be updated in the GIS layer. This process, this is still in progress. The update to the city's rural and urban map that was recommended by the Plan Commission was actually approved this week by the Common Council. And the budget amendment for planning consulting services, this is associated with the UDO fee schedule that was presented tonight. The goals for this year in long-range planning is continue with the UDO rewrite, hopefully to get that done this year. Also, staff anticipates to prepare a request for proposal for the city's comprehensive master plan and the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. If that move forward, that will be presented to the Plan Commission. An update to the UDO to comply with the religious, land use, institutional Persons Act that's expected to be presented to the Plan Commission soon. The update to the fee schedule that was presented tonight. There are other activities related to the Parks Commission that I will skip for now. And also in the development reviews, just to continue reviewing upcoming applications. So that's a summary of the report. Happy to answer any questions that you may have or suggestions. And I forgot to mention that staff is planning to present like a mid-year status update of these goals to the Plan Commission. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Any comments or questions from the commission? Well,
Good work.
Thank you.
thank you for the presentation. There's no action that we need to take on that. Any,
Make a motion to place on file.
thank you. Motion to place on file. Second? Anyone?
Second,
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
motion to adjourn.
Chair voted, yes. All right, that is the end of the agenda. Do I have a
No,
motion to
no.
adjourn?
D2?
We,
Table.
we tabled D2.
Didn't you vote that?
Can I ask a question about it?
No.
Nah. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move adjourn.
Second.
All right, first and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Chair has voted. All right, we have a motion to adjourn, and we are adjourned at 8:06. Thank you.